All right, what's up, guys? Good morning. It's Tuesday. JMart's with me. Gonna brag, I think, a little bit here because I got that game pretty good last night. Chiefs. Try to tell people either bet on the Chiefs or just don't bet at all. It just doesn't make any sense. He's too good. Mahomes is too good. Yeah, they could have really blown him out by more than what it was, but Chiefs hold on 26-13. Guess they got kind of lucky there when they missed the extra point. The Saints did. They started to make it maybe seem like a game, and then it was stuck on 3, which you felt like, man, as long as the Chiefs get a field goal, you're in a good spot to cover. But they went down the field and got a touchdown, and then that was it. Carr couldn't get it done. Your bets were ridiculous. I think you've lost more half-yard bets than the average person so far. Look, we all lose close games, but Worthy gets 3 yards instead of 3.5. The other bet was easy for you. Shaheed, he's really good. I mean, he was open. He gets a lot of space. So my main takeaway was kind of the takeaway before the game, which is the Chiefs are really good. I don't know. Maybe the Saints win 8 games. Maybe they don't. Their backup quarterback that came in was decent. Carr got hurt. Kind of touched on a bunch of different things. Did you have any main takeaways, or is it like what you expected the game from yesterday?
I mean, the big thing with the Chiefs is they aren't like really showing the game plan either. Like they're running a really simplified offense. They basically just run the ball like 60, 70% of the time still, even with Pacheco hurt. And if they can win games without having to do a bunch of trick plays, I know they had the hook and ladder, but like it's Andy Reid. He's going to try and pull some funny stuff every now and then. But the fact that the offense runs this well, this simple it's so scary, especially with how good their defense is. It's just, they look like a team just ready to three-peat.
Yeah, Mahomes is just so comfortable back there. I don't even think he played an A game. He missed a couple throws. It's probably a B game for him. And, yeah, so Chiefs win. Not too much to really belabor there because it just is what it is, man. Like, I don't know. They just don't bet against them. Maybe they won't repeat, but, like, I'm not going to bet against it at this point.
No, and I mean, the biggest thing is Mahomes hasn't even looked that good all year. Like, he's still Patrick Mahomes, but, like, if he wasn't Patrick Mahomes, what would the dialogue be around him? What would people be saying about him as the quarterback? Because it's kind of been ugly at times. He's just getting the job done every single game. It's like he's reaching that Tom Brady level where like you'll watch the game and you'll be like, oh, he didn't feel that good, but he hasn't lost the games.
It's complimentary football. He makes the best plays like on that last drive when he needs to run for 9 yards. He gets 9.5 yards. Like that's the thing about the Chiefs that is really impressive is that they play complimentary football. And you see it all across sports, baseball, basketball, football. It's what the Royals are doing well. That's why they won again yesterday. And it's what my Orioles couldn't get done. Like complimentary. And what that means, it simply is game to game, situation by situation, enough to win. And the stats don't really matter. Who gets the credit doesn't matter. It's just – and anyway, I kind of want to transition to baseball for a second, and then I wanted to recap some football. But baseball is just so fascinating right now. And we got 2 games. All 4 of them, all series are 1-1, right? So we got the National League. But let's talk about the Royals yesterday and the Tigers yesterday. And then I want to spring forward to the games. Tigers win 3-0, complete like – pitcher's duel. It's in the middle of the afternoon. I don't know if a bunch of people saw it, but rule of thumb, if you see a line that's like 6.5 for a total, like bet the under or just don't bet it because chances are there's a read on the pitcher. So that was a dominant game. And then Reagan's wasn't dominant at all yesterday. If you would have showed me his line, I figured the Yankees win. Instead, they can't score. Royals bullpen shuts it down. What were your thoughts? Do you think either one of those teams, Tigers or Royals, are in a position to win the series? I guess they're somewhat favored now that they go back home and they get to it. What do you think?
I mean, I think the Royals, like, they're such a scrappy team. They just win. It is so ugly watching them play. The pitcher gets pulled in the 4th or 5th inning. Then they get 4 innings of, like, perfect reliever ball. It's just they are one of those teams that come playoff time, similar to the Diamondbacks and Rangers to do. And with the Tigers, I don't really know why the Tigers are still winning games, to be completely honest. Like the lineup didn't really look that good yesterday either. They do have Tarek Skubal, so I guess that is like a crutch you can lean on, is that you do have the best pitcher in baseball. But I mean, it was when I saw Clase coming in and the first fastball was 98.3, I knew the arm was a little dead. I knew there was going to be that ability to get to him. I didn't expect him to hang a slider like that, though.
Yeah, so the thing about the game is if you told the Guardians we just get to the 6th, 7th inning, 8th, get rid of like a 0-0, the Guardians bullpen is supposed to be the strength. I think that's a bad sign for them that they lost that game. I hate counting the Yankees out, even though they seem to always go out. It's like as an Orioles fan, I don't know. I wish I would have bet the Royals yesterday. I was so close to doing the Kansas City parlay. It's just sitting right there, but anyway, so I left it alone. What do we think of the Phillies and the Mets? That's the game this afternoon. I mean, it's all of a sudden it's turned into a 50-50 series. Like the Mets, now the fact, like just to kind of recap it from game 2 and then set it up for you, the Mets are about to go up 2-0. So like they have all the momentum, and they basically got the Phillies on the ropes, and the Phillies come back and win. So now the momentum switches. 30,000 feet view is Mets have momentum, but on a day-to-day basis, now the Phillies have it. How do you see it playing out? My gut tells me the Phillies roll them today. Like the Phillies absolutely put up 7, 8, 9 runs, and the Mets kind of pressing home. Do you see it that way, or what are your thoughts?
I mean, the fact that it is in New York is a massive deal because the Phillies' home field advantage is gone. They were able to go into Philly and win a game. If you're going off typical home field advantage, best team gets 3, worst team gets 2. They are in the best spot they could possibly be. The issue is they're playing a Phillies team that has energy behind them, and that's probably the scariest team in baseball. Is when the Phillies get going, they kind of don't stop. It's an Aaron Nola-Manaea matchup, and Sean Manaea is a good pitcher, but historically in the playoffs he has not been good. And I think he was decent in the wild card round, but they're going to need him to really be solid. And that pitching disparity is so massive to me that it's going to be hard for the Mets. It's a massive uphill battle.
Yeah, he was not sharp in the wild card game. I like the spot for the Phillies, and I like the spot for the Dodgers because if you tell the best players like whatchamacallit, Buehler, even though he hasn't been great, he's got the pedigree. Ohtani, Betts, Freeman. You guys are the Padres are minus 155 today. I know you were all over Michael King. You tried to tell me last time I think it was literally last week when we recorded against the Braves. You're like, I hope my Braves win, but he'll probably. I think you were 2-0 that night over his strikeouts, over his outs. He's a huge fit. I mean, just like it's so funny how sports like are, right? Like this guy's the huge favorite over Walker Buehler, like one of the best pitchers in the game, but he's been hurt. He's come back. His numbers are terrible. If it wasn't, they're treating it not like he's Walker Buehler, right? And the Dodgers just got spanked 10-2. So it feels like I'm being a square here by just saying, well, the Dodgers are plus money. You have to take them. But go ahead. What do you think?
No, I mean, you're right. Like the Dodgers have so many like bullpen arms that used to be starters or can at least work a couple innings that they do have some insurance on if Buehler kind of comes out a little shaky. They can pull him early and they'll be fine. As far as Michael King, he's a strikeout machine, but the Dodgers are a really good team at sometimes not striking out when they don't have to. And Mookie Betts being, I think, 0 for 22 in his last 22 playoff at bats, I think is what it is. Or it's either 0 for 22 in his last 22 playoff at bats or just in general. But that's a big factor because either he really gets going or it's going to be similar to like what Gunnar Henderson did where it becomes a non-factor that you can't afford to have. So that game really scares me because that's the one where I think it can go either way. I think
the Padres would have been better off winning 5-2 or 6-2. The fact they win 10-2, they celebrated. You had the Machado thing, where he's just a jerk anyway. But that's not the first time he's done something like that. I think they pissed off the Dodgers in a way where I would take the over. I think that's where I'm leaning. I'll have my write-ups. I mean, it's early. It's 9 o'clock. I'll have my write-ups here in a few hours. But I'm leaning towards the overs in the baseball games today and the road teams. So, all right, let's get back to football. I wanted to talk to you. I didn't even tell you we're going to do this, but this is where I think we're at 5 weeks into the season. The AFC, nobody, and maybe you'll be different here, but nobody seems to stray away from Bills will win the East. Ravens now are positioned to win the North, the way the Steelers looked. Chiefs win the West. Texans win the South. It's like if you want to make the argument, I'll listen to it, and I'm happy to hear it. But then if you go on the other side, the NFC is like I have no idea on any division. Like you can literally go by each division. The East, you can make the argument for the way the Giants look. You make the argument for all 4 teams at this point. even though people have their different opinions, you could at least make the argument. Same thing in the North, all 4 teams. In the South, maybe it's turning into a 2-team race, but the Saints, their offense the first 2 weeks, you can't just write them off. I guess you write off the Panthers. They're the only team in the NFC that you write off. So do you see it that way, or do you have like some hot takes where you think the Broncos are going to win the AFC West, or what? Because I feel like it can't just be chalk, right? There's no way the Bills, Texans, Ravens, and Chiefs are all going to win the division, but I can't figure out which one of them is not going to win the division.
I mean, out of the people left, it's the Chiefs are probably like the West is somehow probably the most open just because
really?
I guess, I mean, the Raiders and Broncos have looked like, I guess, and the Chargers too have looked like somewhat competent at times, but they're running up against the Chiefs. So it's the most competitive division, but again, you still have to beat the Chiefs at least a couple times. And that's just going to be really hard to do. And the issue is just outside of that. I mean, who's beating the Texans in the South? Like the South, there isn't a team there. In the East, I don't even know. It's basically the Bills could sleepwalk to the playoffs because every other team is in complete chaos. And the North does have the Steelers, and the Bengals maybe get going, but the Bengals looked good against the Ravens, and they lost. And they're not in a position to lose games where they come out and look that good. So the AFC feels pretty locked up, and the NFC is, there's probably good value on the good teams right now in the NFC, but they might not even end up winning their division. So it's weird.
I want to talk myself into the Dolphins because mainly because I want to talk about this Bills game, and I feel like something is just going to implode from Buffalo. I don't think they can come back from that game. I think it's one of those games where you start to question absolutely everything. First of all, Allen's head hit the ground really hard. I'm surprised they let him come back in. I would have let just Trubisky try to finish the game. Bangs his head really hard. Whatever, maybe everybody's head gets banged. But the way they handled the end of the game, you saw what happened? Where they do you not see this? So they're
I saw the Allen fall, and then I kind of I think I had to go to work, so I just got in the car.
So they get the ball, so they stop them. Texans punt the ball, and the Bills are stuck on their 1 or 2 yard line. And there's about 20 seconds left in the game. Texans have all their timeouts. So the Bills just need to run the ball, punt, and get to overtime. And they throw the ball 3 straight times. And the logic was, maybe we get a 20, 25-yard play. But it was and he acknowledges it after the game, McDermott, that it was, not his best decision. And if it was a one-off, or if he had the hardware that Harbaugh has, maybe he kind of just overlooks stupid clock stuff, and you're just like, you shake your head and you just move on. But the Bills can't win. They haven't gone over the hump. They don't have that signature playoff win to lean on. Losing that game, I'm going to check their schedule for a second. I have a bad feeling about the Bills, but I don't have a great feeling about the Jets, the way they looked. And I just feel like the Dolphins, maybe Tua gets back. The defense looked good, albeit against the Patriots. They held off at the end. But I think something's just wrong with Buffalo. They go at New York on Monday night. I think it's a game that the Jets probably win, and then we get fake hope again with Rodgers. So, yeah, I think if you made me choose out of those 4 divisions, the Dolphins sneak in there somehow. But I don't have I don't know if I bet on it, but something's just – I'm ready to bury Buffalo. Like, I cannot believe they threw the ball. You go watch it after we finish recording. You can see it for yourself. But there's very rarely do you get to a position in sports where there's no argument for the other side. And if you wanted to throw it on first down, there's like a little percentage that maybe, but then to not throw, it's just crazy. So Texans hit a 59-yard field goal to win. Anyway, I didn't mean to catch you off guard since you didn't see the ending. What about we talk about this Ravens-Bengals game. I'm going to break it down in a few days in more detail when I can fully digest it. But what was your main takeaway? I don't want to put words in your mouth. Did you come away more about the Ravens or the Bengals?
Oh, it was the Bengals looked good, but again, they still lost. It was Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson was, that's the reason he's a 2-time MVP. It's he did everything. There were some passes he missed. Yeah, everyone does though. But the reads were there. He was running really well. And it was Derrick Henry had a great game. He ended up being the guy that basically won them the game. But it's Lamar. All game, it was Lamar found the right guy. Lamar made the right read. Lamar made the right run. I watched the game and it was the Ravens look so good on offense now. Now that Derrick Henry's in the system, he's figured his position out. It all just feels like Lamar's more comfortable in the pocket. Lamar feels like he knows what he's doing a little more because it was a big adjustment for him. And I don't get how people say he can't throw the ball. I've never really understood it because he has a really pretty deep ball. His reads are really good. I've never understood Lamar Jackson slander at all.
Can you make the argument for why Cincinnati didn't throw the ball, though, at the end of the game? Because that, to me, was the takeaway. To run the ball 3 straight times up the middle was just criminal.
I think you think Evan McPherson's been clutch in the past. I think you just sit there and think that he just hits the field goal, but your offense was humming. So there's Jamar Chase was incredible in that second half and right at the end of the first.
And everything was quick slants. It was like they were getting 4-yard slants on us. I thought that was the reason they lost the game.
I think they could have gotten into a better field goal position and won it. But again, like it's starting to seem like the difference between a lot of these teams that feel even in personnel is like drastically poorly timed bad coaching decisions. It's just like they'll do the right thing 80% of the time, but then they'll make the bad call on 4th down. They'll go for it, or they'll, I guess, run the ball 3 times. Like it's starting to feel like yeah.
What about the NFC? Let's roll over. Where to start? Let's start in the East. Great day for the East, right? Giants win, Cowboys win, and Commanders win. The Commanders look great. I mean, Dak looked great, and the Giants look great. The Eagles are sitting there 2-2. I'm down the Eagles, but they get Deshaun Watson at home this week, so chances are they win that game. Are all of a sudden we're going to get 3 teams out of the NFC East? What do you believe in? What don't you believe in? Where to go?
I believe in the Commanders. One of my friends at work said he put a futures bet on the Commanders to win the NFC East, and I laughed at him. And
I did that too.
And I kept bringing it up for a month, and then the game started, and then I started watching them play, and I was like, nah, he was right. Like, this team just looks real. Like, I don't know if it's like some Dan Quinn voodoo magic in his first season, because he did it in Atlanta too. He brought him to the Super Bowl. But they just look incredible, and I do like I think the Cowboys are fine. Like, I think they're probably just going to be a playoff team. But the team that has the most to lose right now out there, I think, is the Eagles, because the Eagles have not looked good. They've kind of had to sweat their way through a couple wins, and the Commanders aren't, and the Cowboys do have that extra win. So it's completely wide open. I don't really know.
Yeah, I know I have preseason bias with the Seahawks. Is that a reflection on Seattle? Because I'm inclined to say Daniel Jones and the Giants are actually pretty good, and I think Seattle's going to beat San Francisco on Thursday. So I was annoyed that they lost the game, but I didn't come away with like they played terrible. I came away with like McDonald's got to figure it out on defense, but like he's smart enough to figure it out. The Giants are pretty good on offense. The Giants move the ball. Or is it like Seattle's just not that good? They beat 3 crappy quarterbacks, and Ryan, you're wrong.
I mean, at this point, what I'm trying to find with the games is some sort of trends between all these really weird outcomes, like what has been the consistent factor. Mm-hmm. And for the Seahawks, they, at this point, haven't really beaten a good quarterback yet. And until they do, there is always going to be that question mark of if they can, because, yeah, they came out and they were undefeated. They were one of the last undefeated teams, but once the schedule picked up, and I'm not really going to call at this point Daniel Jones like an incredible quarterback, but the past 2 weeks he's looked pretty great. So I don't know if it's the Giants have just figured him out. It just took a season and now they're back in, or if the Seahawks. I mean,
they were good. I was going to say the Giants were good a couple years ago, right? Daniel Jones was good. They won a playoff game.
And the thought was that it was just Dayball came in and put him in a great system, and then the defense is adjusted. I don't know if this is just going to be Dayball and defensive coordinators going back and forth, and at 1 year he figures it out, the next one it's back to point A. But there's been such a lack of consistency between like what's happening in the NFL. The outcomes don't make sense. Like the Vikings are rolling, they're doing all that stuff. No one saw that coming. The Jets are somehow 2-3, but if you watch some of the games, you'd swear maybe they could be 4-1, or most likely they should be 0-5. So it's hard to figure out what is at this point a known fact and what is just, I don't know, just randomness. There's a lot of randomness going on.
So one team from the NFC North, I think we haven't had 4 teams from one division make it into the playoff. Wait, have we? I don't think we've ever had 4 teams.
I think the closest is the NFC West. I think did some. No, was it the AFC North did it a couple years back, right? Where there was like they were fighting each other for the final spot, and there was like the Steelers watching. Was it Browns Ravens? Was that the game?
I vaguely remember. I want to say that was the year the Colts lost to Jacksonville when they only had 2 wins, and somehow anyway, I don't think we've ever had 4 teams. I don't think I'll double check it, but I almost am positive we don't have 4 teams. The NFC North, I think the hardest thing to do right this second, since the Bears look so good and the Packers are preseason looking, they were probably the preseason pick in that division along with the Lions. Lions look good, and then the Vikings are the best team in the NFC record-wise. Which team do you think wins the division, and which team do you think finishes last in the division?
So I am a Bears fan, but if you had to make me pick, it probably just is Chicago to finish last. I wish I could make an argument for them finishing anywhere else, but I have a hard time arguing that they're going to keep it up at a better rate than the Lions and the Packers and the Vikings. And as far as winning, I do still think it could be a back-to-back for the Lions. The Lions have still looked really good this season. They've had some losses. Yeah, it's happened, but against the Seahawks, it just looked incredible on offense.
The only game they lost was the Tampa at home, and they really beat themselves in that game.
And then again, it's like it's Baker Mayfield. Like sometimes Baker Mayfield comes out and just looks like the best quarterback in the world, and then other times he'll come out and you'll wonder why he's starting games, and they just happen to catch one of those just God mode Baker Mayfield games where it's like there's not much you can do when he's on. Like he makes some ridiculous passes when he's there.
Yeah, go. So we'll spin that. Good, you're setting me up to go to the South. Whatchamacallit, the Saint. I guess that might have. There were so many good games this week, but the Thursday night game with the Bucks and the Falcons was one of the best games. Falcons get out of there with the win. Who do you think wins that division? And do you think both of those teams, though, frankly, can make the playoffs? Because Falcons, I mean, they finally look like they're getting the offense going. And like you said, Baker's been good all season.
I'm going to make the argument for the Falcons. I do think it took a couple weeks with Kirk Cousins to figure out what they wanted to do, what it was really going to look like. And I think they wanted to keep being a really run-heavy team. And it wasn't really working out that well. Like Bijan was doing his best, but teams were pouncing on the offensive line really quick. Now that they're kind of letting Kirk it's just Kirk short pass, and layer in a deep ball that's really well placed. The offense looked perfect against Tampa Bay. And I do expect, I'm not expecting 500 yards from him every single week, but I am expecting to see him throwing the ball maybe 5 to 7 more times a game, maybe getting 30 to 50 more yards a game, and it's going to look better. It felt like he finally found his footing. I think there were confidence issues that he was having too. When the Achilles goes, you are going to feel a little less nimble on your feet. He looked great. He felt confident. You could see his confidence grow as the game went on. And I think
the offensive line in particular, I was surprised how good the offensive line looked.
And I do think that at the end of the day, the Falcons are, I think, still a better defensive team. They still feel like a team that can hold people down. They haven't really been doing it that well this year. I expect the defense to get better. I expect the offense to keep getting better. We did just watch the Saints they feel like they're kind of crumbling right now. It does kind of feel like it was a good first 2 weeks, but they've kind of hit a wall. So it will come down to if they can beat the Bucks. And again, you're dealing with Baker Mayfield. He is an unknown quantity. By definition, you don't know what he's going to be week in or week out. You're leaning towards more consistent games, but again, he can still come out and just kind of have a rough one.
Yeah, I didn't come away from the game last night saying the Saints were terrible. Mahomes, first of all, they had the ball the whole game. And the Chiefs are just a well-oiled machine. They just are. Derek Carr he just sucks. He does. You can't throw an interception on the first drive of the game. They literally took the philosophy of we're going to take the ball. First of all, most teams don't do that on the road at Kansas City to receive. I wish I should look up that stat. That's just doesn't make any sense because the crowd's ridiculously loud. The second half the people are in the bathroom having a drink. So you usually want the ball to start on the road in the second half. Saints are like, no, screw that. We want the ball. We're going no huddle. We're going right down the field. Then on third down, they throw a pitch to Kamara. It should be an 8-yard loss. Instead, he gets a 9-yard gain somehow. And the Saints are like, we're here. We're ready to go. And then Derek Carr is like, I don't want to get hit, so I'm just going to throw the ball really high. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, I obviously bet on the Chiefs, so I'm happy. But the way that first few plays, I'm like, son of a bitch. I was like, man, maybe the Saints offense, they had a game plan. But then when you listen to people this last night or this morning, you can tell people like don't watch because they're like, oh, the Saints, no game plan. They had nothing. It's like, dude, Derek Carr threw the interception. That's how the first drive, and then they couldn't get off the field. So what else was I actually still it's weird. I came away from the game being like, Saints will probably beat the Bucs next week because that's just the way the NFC South is. As soon as you think you have it figured out. So all right. I don't know what we accomplished there by going through things because I still think we're confused about what the hell is going to happen. But
at least we know the AFC. At least you can feel confident that the AFC.
There's no way it's going to work out. I'm telling you right now. If there's no way, I don't know who.
It could be the Texans because the Texans haven't looked that convincing. It could be them somehow. Anthony Richardson comes back. Or the Jaguars figure out how to play football, but
Jameis Winston can be the quarterback for the Browns. If Jameis Winston was the quarterback, I would bet the Browns against the Eagles.
I think they're a 500 team. I think at this point they would.
Dude, I would bet any team this week besides Deshaun Watson against the Eagles. So my philosophy with bye weeks is if the team is in a good – it all depends on if the team's in a good mood. That's how the bye week works. So last night, it's like the Chiefs in particular, I like Kelsey because they had the bye week. So it's like he gets the extra rest. Chiefs are always in a good mood anyway. Fine. The Eagles, it's like fade them after a bye week. They had to spend more time with each other. No way that's going to fucking help. Like, no way. But they get Deshaun Watson. Like, so the owner of the Browns, he deserves, like, more of an investigation of the – forget, like, some of the other stuff he's involved with. But, like, his commitment to making this horrible decision to pay this guy and then not letting them bench him. Like, because obviously Stefanski would prefer to have anybody else, you know, maybe this guy that took him to the playoffs last year, Flacco, which that'll be fascinating to see what the Colts do. What do you think the Colts are going to do? What would you do? They said they're going back to Richardson when he's healthy, but Flacco was the like top 5 quarterback last week. Like,
I think you just go out there and you tell Flacco just throw it. You just every game that's not going to be Richardson. You Flacco.
I'm saying, do you let Richardson come back when he's ready to come back?
Yeah, I think you have to. I just think because you banked on Richardson so aggressively in the draft, and he hasn't. I mean, he's looked rough at times. It's been pretty ugly this season, especially.
Who hasn't? Yeah,
but last year he was good. I mean, it was like 3 games, but you saw that flash. I think you got to at least try the flash again because again, the receiving room's still young. Jonathan Taylor at least has a couple more years left, so you do still have a supporting cast that can. If Richardson isn't the guy, you can switch it up at quarterback. You can give this isn't the end all be all season for them. I know as fans they're probably getting a little impatient, especially after last year. But maybe just trust the process for one more year before starting to call for heads.
I know, and it would probably be embarrassing or like humiliating, whatever words you want to use. But it does feel like the best way to win would be to like use Richardson in packages, which is ironic for Flacco because that's what they did to him with Lamar. The 1 year they were together, Flacco's like, are you fucking kidding me? What's he doing out on the field? And now you fast forward 5 years later, 6 years, I'm watching Red Zone. I'm like, is Flacco and Lamar playing against each? If you watch Red Zone, it looked like it was just the Flacco and Lamar show for 5 minutes, where Flacco makes a play, Lamar makes a play. Flacco's like, I can run for 30 yards. Dude, he had a sprint across the field for a first down. So there's so many interesting things happening. It depends on like what storyline you really want to harp on. But that, to me, if the Colts were a little bit better, if they would have won last week, that would get more attention. But I guess, like you said, no one thinks they're going to win this year anyway. So whatever they decide to do is kind of eh. Plus, they're at Tennessee this week. What are the Titans doing? Do you know? Did they decide if they're going back to Will Levis? God help them if they do.
I have truly I don't know what the right decision is either. Like, I don't.
The decision can't be Will Levis. I know that.
Yeah, but again, I guess Mason Rudolph didn't look bad.
Okay, they vowed to stick with. All right, I'm betting the Colts this week.
They went Levis again.
He's expected to practice this. Yeah, as the Titans vow to stick with Will Levis. Okay. So That's my cursory research, but it looks like they're rolling. Yes, I know Mason Rudolph had terrible numbers, but the Titans are actually like complimentary football. Like they won the game, right? Easily. The Dolphins aren't good, but the Dolphins beat the Patriots. Like, so something had to go right when I'm telling you, Will Levis goes out, defensive linemen feel better, offensive linemen feel better. It's just one of those things. Everybody just feels better. I feel terrible just saying this because he might be a nice guy, but holy shit.
No, he's an odd guy. He is one of the weirder guys in the NFL right now. I've never seen someone like Mayo as much as him. I've never seen it before.
It feels like his career trajectory would be like a Gardner Minshew, where he can be your backup and like out of nowhere he gets hot for 3 or 4 games. And you're like, damn, he's actually good if everything around him and he was like told ahead of time he was not the man. But yeah, when he thinks he's the leader of the team, he's like, I got to make a play, guys. It's me. And the funny part is he's got the biggest balls. Like he's like Josh Allen when he's
throw anything. He will throw anything. If he was told to just go out and throw the ball to DeAndre Hopkins 20 times a game, he would try and get the ball to DeAndre Hopkins 20 times in the game.
He runs well, but I'm saying when he runs and scrambles, there's no slide in him. He's like, all right.
Now, watching that Kentucky, it's the talent's there. It's just the question has always been, this guy's the worst decision making I've ever seen.
He has an opinion of himself.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Like, because even Mahomes and Lamar, when you're watching them play, it's like everything they do, they're capable of doing. And when so the most frustrating thing as a coach is when you have somebody who just has the wrong opinion of himself. It's like, dude, you're good at what you're good at. Anyway. All right. So college football, I got about 5-10 minutes left of your time. I told you, I'm sure I'm not the only one that said this, but as soon as you see, this week looks like it's going to suck. Alabama will kill Vanderbilt. Tennessee will kill Arkansas. I don't need to watch these games. I'll just watch next week. It's like, okay. So now we know nothing about college football, so you're here to help. Vanderbilt's good. Alabama's bad. It was a bad week. I mean, what the hell happened in that game?
Vanderbilt's been underrated all year. They've looked pretty solid all year. I've been looking at them. I've been waiting for a game where I felt like I can kind of snipe them on. I didn't think it was Bama. And I do think that Bama came in just a little flat, and Vandy decided to try and take Ryan Williams out of the game, and it kind of helped. And once Milroe had to look to other reads, it's the first time I've seen Milroe look shaky this year. And it was just, I didn't expect it to end this way. It's just one of those games where you look back and I think you just enjoy it and you just say, damn, they beat them. I hope they bounce back because it's just so.
They got them at the perfect time, obviously. They just beat Georgia at home at night. They're super high. They have a new coach. So they're not used to feeling that kind of whatever wins. But give Vanderbilt credit. At the end of the game, Alabama's going to win the game if they get the ball back. And Vanderbilt, unlike the Bengals, they got balls. They're like, no, we got to throw the ball and get a first down. We're not just – they ran it up the middle.
Incredible. Oh, man.
Yeah, you can't.
It was so good. It was just – the smart guys coming up with the smart plays against Alabama is pretty hilarious. It's a pretty good commentary on the SEC as a whole, and I kind of love it.
You can't play to lose, like in general in life. That was like my main takeaway from. It's like I've known that, but when you watch a team, man, it's just life is way too short. You may as well throw it. What's the worst that can happen? And the Bengals are like, no, we just want to kick a 53-yard field goal. It's fine. So all right, anyway, Alabama loses. Tennessee loses. That one seemed a little bit more predictable because it's a night game. Go ahead. Arkansas good. Tennessee lays an egg. It kind of feels like you're throwing away the Alabama game. Do you feel the same way about Tennessee, or is now there a big hole in what Tennessee's doing?
It's a little bit more of a commentary, but again, a lot of people want to like find these upsets and think it means a bunch. It is just the SEC sometimes. Sometimes you go to Arkansas and Arkansas just has their day, and Arkansas had their day. Tennessee looked a little questionable. I think teams will have something to look at going forward on how to stop Tennessee, because a team that looked like as dominant as they did just comes in and then 1 week just drops that big of an egg. It does mean that there was something Arkansas did that was significant, that can be duplicated, that can be used by other teams. Different from the Vandy game where, like, against Georgia, Alabama just came out and just rolled in the first quarter, and then kind of I think Vandy probably used some of the defensive schemes Georgia used in the next 3 quarters to try and slow Bama down. because Georgia found something, and it's clear now Vandy at least found a little bit. So there maybe is something for both teams that they found, but I lean more that Arkansas figured Tennessee out, figured out a way to keep them off the field, keep the high-powered offense slowed down.
Yeah, it seems like from the outside looking in, without knowing all the players, the idea of the NIL and being able to make money means that the depth of the best teams just isn't there. And some of these lesser SEC teams like Vanderbilt, didn't the kid that sealed the game on Vanderbilt, wasn't he from Alabama? Like something is I can't remember the player now, but there's a lot of this where, hey man, I go to Alabama and I'm the 8th receiver. Remember, there's like a million guys on these college teams. Like, man, I'm the 8th receiver. I'm the 7th receiver. Now they're bringing in these 3 freshmen. I'm never going to play. Or same thing at Ohio State or Georgia. So it's like, where do I go? Well, you run out of places to go, right? Like not everybody can be at the top 5 schools. And I think what used to happen is, hey, if we're not going to get paid, then I'll at least go to the best schools anyway, right? Like as much as I want to play, I can still kind of sneak into the NFL, the Matt Castle thing, where it's like, wait, he wasn't even the starter. Like how'd that happen? But I got to see him practice. There's scouts there. All that stuff is gone, man. Like it's just different. So parity is alive and well. College football, be careful while you're betting, right? Like move with caution here. Betting heavy favorites, trying to just make money easily, just by like sneaking in what you think are sure things that never works out. So
no, there isn't an easy win in college football. Like, especially once you're getting conference play, these are rivalries that have existed for decades. And now you do have more balanced top end talent. And if it goes against each other, it's going to lead to some really weird outcomes this year.
And the playoffs, Alabama didn't have to win. Like Georgia didn't, or Tennessee didn't have to win. Mm-hmm. The games, college football to me will be great. Just like the NFL, it'll be really great at the end of the year. It's just lost a little bit of its lust. Ohio State, Oregon will be fun this weekend, but it doesn't really matter. Each team can lose 2 games this year and still make it. So, yeah, just is what it is. All right, I kept you longer than I was supposed to. Appreciate you. You're doing great, by the way. I know if people are following, which I'm, obviously if they're looking at your bets are like, you've turned the corner as far as like you've been improving, but it's like, I mean this like in all seriousness, you've lost more games by half a yard here, 1 yard. The other day you lost both bets by half a yard. So it's like, I know I've gotten good feedback, so I wanted to say it on here. Your write-ups are great. Like even I don't write as much. I don't write as clearly as you do. You do a really good job of explaining where you're going with things. So I certainly appreciate it. I know everybody that's listening appreciates it, but yeah, we don't tell people to follow your bets. Even if you go 4-0, 12-0, 13-0, I think the best thing that you do with the prop bets, at least for me, if I was being like, that makes me like as a philosophy, betting those top receivers, I think that's been the biggest change, right? Like you were trying to kind of be too cute, hit Brock Bowers, Wendell Robinson. And it's like, if you might be right, but you're better off looking at the game plan. And it's kind of inspired me with the Chiefs and the Cowboys these past 2 night games to be like, okay, I have more fun here betting the prop bets, especially with the Cowboys. I don't know. They're not running the ball against Pittsburgh. Then it starts having a monsoon. So anyway, you're doing a great job. Keep it up.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I do. It means a lot. We're just trying to make money. It's all about just making money, and I need to justify it in my head a bunch. I need to make it make sense in my head to basically 90%. I can convince myself that 90% of the time this happens. And maybe if the scheme goes wrong, I get it wrong. But, I try and make the write-ups good because that's how I need a good write-up in my own head for me to be able to defend it. So
no, you're doing great. You're obviously doing the balance here. This isn't professional. The people, that's why I always laugh. I stayed away. I thought I was going to do more of like calling out people this year. And it's just like, I don't know. It's a waste of energy, frankly. There's so many scammers and people pretending that I don't even know if I start, I won't be able to stop. So I love the fact that this isn't your profession. You're not betting life changing money, but you're trying your hardest. So, all right. Well, hopefully we'll have a good week. I'll have bets out today because I do like both these baseball games. And someone's going to have to talk me off of the Seahawks Thursday because I'm ready to bet them. So, all right, man. Have a good day and hope everybody has a good day themselves.
All right. See you.